what are the mental frameworks that you use practically to push through in those moments?
Yeah, so one thing that's interesting about me, I guess, as a runner, as a racer for 100 miles and stuff, is I don't normally wear any headphones or anything like that. I like to go just in silence for the race. I almost force myself to sit with it in a way, and good or bad, I don't know, but I've been able to work through some things in my own life just in those hours, just being out there. It's like life. I guess the mental model I use is this is nothing different than what you have overcome previously in life, and what's to come in life is you're gonna have ups and downs. You're gonna have days that are feel like they're amazing and great, and you can defeat the whole world, and then 2 days later it could drop you to your knees and feel like you are never going to be the same and you'll never make it out alive, kind of thing. You have to give it time, and you have to just really understand the moment you're in.
Is that much of it? That's not much of a change for you, right?
My name is Kerry Kite. I used to load bombs in the Air Force, and now I'm a writer, a filmmaker, and an entrepreneur. Through using the post-9/11 GI Bill to go to college, working hourly jobs to pay the bills, and freelancing my way into a career, I've studied what it takes to successfully transition from service to civilian, and that study has become a conversation. On this podcast, I speak to other veterans, successful artists and entrepreneurs about their transition, what they did well, where they failed, what they learned, and most importantly, how they applied their skills. Episode 135 continues our series featuring Team RWB and their upcoming Old Glory Ultra Relay with Jason Wood, an Army veteran, fitness dadfluencer, and ultrarunner. Jason gets vulnerable about his struggles post-service and honest about the self-assessments that led to life-affirming changes to his fitness and wellness. Welcome. This is Veteran Made. Our merch store is live at store.veteranmadeproductions.com. Grab hats, t-shirts, and hoodies in both performance and tri-blend cotton fabrics. Use code VM-5OFF for 5% off your purchase. Veteran Made is also sponsored by GoPills, a military-grade nootropic that contributes to brain health over time. Use code VM15 at checkout for 15% off. I get my collagen protein from Bubs Naturals, where you can use code VETERANMADE, all one word, at checkout for 20% off your order. We're also proud to partner with True Made Foods, which makes condiments free from added sugar and sweetened with real foods. Use code VET at checkout for 15% off. We love socks in this house. I get my wife new socks every Christmas. More importantly, we love American-grown and made socks. Use code VETERANMADE15 at rucksocks.com for 15% off. And lastly, I end my day with Rack Out from Bravo Actual to maintain quality sleep, resulting in a well-rested body and mind. Use code VETERANMADE with a space between the words at checkout for 15% off your order. Enjoy the episode.
All right, we are live. Good morning from the great state of Ohio for me. Good morning from the Commonwealth of Virginia. Jason Wood, welcome to Veteran Made.
Hey, nice being here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Very stoked to have you. Very stoked to talk about this event, this project, this undertaking, this whole thing that is the Old Glory Ultra Relay. And yeah, excited to dive in with you in this conversation. And then obviously we're going to be on the road together as we make a film about this event and this journey and this undertaking of which you'll be one of the main characters. So very excited to welcome you as the first runner to be featured in the Old Glory Ultra Relay series that we're doing here at Veteran Made.
Yeah, it's an honor. It's a good group of folks, so I can't wait for everybody to meet them and introduce themselves to everybody and their life story and how they got here. It's a cool group, and I can't wait to be a part of it.
That's it, man. Let's start with you. Just give us a brief primer on who you are and where and when you served, what you're doing now, and then we'll jump into some questions about the relay.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Hampton Roads area in Virginia. So if you think Norfolk, Virginia Beach, Williamsburg, that area, grew up here pretty much my entire life, and then college, I got an opportunity to play football after I graduated high school, and the problem was is I didn't have the money backing to go to school. And so there were some offers made, football scholarships, things like that, but I still kind of coming up short. My parents had me when they were teenagers, so their focus was putting a roof on our heads and food on the table versus, saving for college. And so my guidance counselor popped in one day and said, "Hey, we got this ROTC scholarship thing that, sounds pretty good. And it sounds like right up your alley." And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." And this is, mind you, 1999, 2000 when I'm having this conversation with my guidance counselor. And and so was signed up for the ROTC scholarship, got granted 4-year ROTC scholarship along with 4 years of football. So had my education paid for in college, fortunately through all that. The unfortunate thing was my sophomore year of college is when 9/11 happened, and that changed the way my service was going to look like after I got my commission. So, uh, because of ROTC, they allowed me to continue on with college and graduate. And then on graduation day, which was I think May 8th of 2004, I graduated college, got my commission into the United States Army, and then May 9th I was on the road back to Newport News, Virginia, where they have the Transportation Center of Excellence, the Transportation Corps, which I was a part of at that point. And I did 6 months of my schooling for officer basic course, and then was on the first flight after that to Iraq with my new unit. And I spent 1 year as a movement control officer up in northern Iraq. I spent the next year as a platoon leader in Iraq as a platoon leader for a convoy escort company. And then my final deployment was as a company commander of a truck unit in the Baghdad area. So did three back-to-back-to-back deployments, literally had 8 months and a year between them. Got done with all that, and they said, "Hey, let's make you an aide to a two-star general as a break job." That was no break job, but he was a great guy to work for, and so um, that kind of ended my military career at that point. I think I had done everything I wanted to do at a lower level, especially company command, and then after the aide job, just seeing the military at a different level, a different perspective. I said, let's try this civilian thing out. So I got out and became a civilian contractor, military contractor, and I've been doing that ever since.
Did you get into? When did you get into fitness? I mean, obviously playing college sports and being an ROTC and being in the military requires a certain level of physical fitness. But when did you get into it from an interest standpoint, like as something that became a core part of your life?
Yeah, so I think it was really the time it turned for me was after I had split with my daughter's mother, and this was a few years. This was, 4 or 5 years after I'd gotten out of the military. That structure was gone, that accountability was gone, and so it left me to being, oh, I can just do PT or physical, training or the gym anytime I want. Okay, and that didn't go very well. And about, 4 or 5 years after I left the military, my relationship was really falling apart. Me questioning whether I was going to be a good father, what kind of a father was I being, was I at that moment, what kind of an example was I being to my daughter? There was a lot going on at that one moment in time in life, and I just remember looking myself in the mirror and having that come to Jesus moment and saying, you look at you, that you're mentally out of shape, you're physically out of shape, you're just a mess all around. And I think on the mental side, it took stepping out and going to the VA and scheduling some appointments and trying to figure out the mental health side of the house. And then on the physical side, it was probably beginning of 2017. I saw a Groupon deal for a Spartan race in Virginia, about 3 hours west of where I'm at. So, I said, you know what, screw it, let's sign up for it. So I signed up for it. No training. Like, I remember the first time I got on a treadmill at the local gym just to, start feeling out where I was. My first mile on the treadmill was like a 13-minute run mile, and it was like, this is gonna be bad. And so I did the event out in Western Virginia, the Spartan race, and I remember crossing the finish line defeated in a lot of ways because I had never failed like that to that point in my own head at a physical task before, and being just exhausted, but also at the same, in the same breath, being excited, being okay. This is something I can get into, or this is something that I enjoyed while I was on the course. I sucked at it, but finished with like a thousandth out of 1,000 people. But there's opportunity for improvement, and there's a challenge here now. And so I started signing up for a bunch of Spartan races on the East Coast and started getting really competitive. And by the time that first race was June 17. By the December of 2017, I was in Florida competing at the elite level and finishing like in the top 20 of the elite level folks. And so it was around that time that, I had lost 35 pounds. I felt like I was just on a good trajectory in my life, mentally and physically, being a father, all those things. And so that was my introduction to it. And then kind of just kept going from there, started qualifying for world and national championships and all that stuff. And then good old COVID happened and shut down the fitness world for for a while. And that's honestly how I started getting into ultra running.
Yeah, so I want to get into that journey, but I want to go back to that first Spartan race. What was it like for you to hold that dichotomy, like in your head and in your heart? You mentioned you felt like a failure, but you also felt success. And what was it like to hold those two truths, those two things, in your body, in your mind, in your heart at the same time? And is the way you articulate it now, is that you looking back and seeing it that way, or did you actually experience it and articulate it that way to yourself in that moment?
I think I was able to see it and articulate it in the moment, and I've been fortunate to have some really good mentors, and there was one that specifically just always said, you know, failure isn't failure. Failure is just another term for a new opportunity. And I really saw it as, yes, I had failed at what I wanted to do, go out there and be competitive and be strong at the events I thought I'd be strong at and things like that. But there was so much opportunity, I think, in my head when I looked back at that race. Yeah, you know, sitting there watching watching people finish, you know, well ahead of you and stand on podiums and stuff is where ultimately I wanted to get to, obviously. But at that moment, it was okay. You gotta look at yourself in the mirror, realize where you're currently at. Don't give yourself, you know, don't boost yourself up to, you know, thinking you're something you're not. You have to be real at a certain point. And that's when I got real with myself. I said, look, I am out of shape here. Needs to improve in my life. I need to be a better, more present father. I started really prioritizing things in my life after that first race because I recognized the lack of structure and the lack of, you know, commitment that I had made to things up to that point. And so yeah, I viewed it in that moment, that dichotomy you bring up of like feeling like a failure, but also so hopeful about a future at that moment. Like, man, if I can just make these quick changes and tweaks to my life and then grow on that, you know, what could I potentially become?
Yeah, JJ Sully and I talked about this last week, and right, not everybody gets into fitness the way that you're describing. Right, goes on to enter these races and national championships and world championships and compete at an elite level, which is fine. Right, not everybody's going to be able to do that. Not everybody's interested in that, and it's also incredible that you are interested in that and capable of those things. But you mentioned the structure, and we talked about it last week, and it's become a through line, you know, in my life as well. I'm a dad. I'm a girl dad too. You know, we've got a 5-year-old just turned 5 earlier or last week. I guess a couple weeks ago when this episode is going to air. We've got another one on the way who's coming this summer that we know is going to be a girl, and we're very excited. And the when I got out of the military, and then when COVID happened, you know, a decade or so later, I found myself getting out of shape like everybody else was, right? Like eating a lot, drinking a lot, not knowing where this thing was going to go. We kind of took our time off, right? We just enjoyed those little moments as best we could. And I don't work out now to stay in shape and be fit to fight the mission that I had before, right? When I was,
Yeah.
you know, deployed and loading bombs and high op tempo and all of those things. I've now adjusted my mindset to be fit for life, right? To be a present father, to be a capable father, to be somebody who can do activities with my kids for the rest of my life, right? And we lose that when we come out of the military because we're thinking about that fit to fight and the mission, and we don't have that structure anymore, and we shouldn't have that structure anymore because we're not. That's not our mission anymore. Our mission is a new one
Yeah.
in life. So how do you? Obviously, you're competing at an elite level, but for everybody else in the community, how do you think about that? What is your mindset? What are the practicalities that you think about with this new mission in life to be fit, you know, to be a father, to be present, and to just be healthy as a human? How do you look back at the old mission set and the old approach and structure, and how have you crafted the new structure for your own life?
Yeah, so I think the key thing for me was prioritization of effort. I think that was something the military did teach, I think fairly well, is prioritization of effort and where you should put your most impetus, on certain things. And so for me, it was getting priorities straight. Well, what are my priorities? Priority number one is obviously I'm a father. I got to be there for my family and things like that. And then just go down that list. And then what are my non-negotiables? What am I not willing to negotiate on with me wanting to achieve the things I want to achieve in life, whether it's daddy daughter date night every Friday night. That's a non-negotiable for me. I'm sorry if you want to have plans and you want to pull me into them, great. I'll make an exception on, like, every now and then, but for every Friday night you can find me doing daddy daughter date night with my daughter. So just things like that, just getting my priorities straight, getting my non-negotiables going. And then yeah, I think it is a much different mindset when it comes to the fit to fight piece. It's when, physical fitness, you're doing a lot of more different things in the military to get you ready to go to war and to carry the load. And then when you're back home, what does that look like? What's the new purpose for fitness when you're out of the military? Now you no longer are going to have to be responsible for rucking kit or up 8 miles of a mountain kind of thing, or pulling bodies out of a Humvee, anything like that, where your brother and sister to the left and right of you are literally, they need you to be physically in shape for their benefit and your own. Um, so for me, I think that shift really happened with my daughter, and I think you hit it on the head a little bit ago, where I was out of breath just getting on the floor to play with her, and like I found myself getting lazy with being active with her. And then from that point forward, it was, what kind of an example am I even to her about what health and fitness and things should look like? I don't want to be dad, 20 years from now, sitting on the couch with the, old yearbook going, yeah, your dad used to be a pretty good, athlete. He used to be able to do some cool stuff. And realizing like I buried that guy, 30 years ago and never revived him. So, I want her to see that I'm, out and active and doing things. And one of the biggest things that I think I told the team this last time we were out at in Arkansas together around the fire, was the biggest thing that really hit me hard was when I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro and then came down from Kilimanjaro, and 2 weeks later my daughter was like, "Hey, I want to climb a mountain too." And it's, that's when it hit me that I really am the example, and that gave my fitness a different purpose. It's not fit to fight, it's fit to be around and to participate in the lives of my family, my daughter, my friends, to give the most that I can, and spill my energy into life, and hopefully it makes everybody around me better.
Yeah, that I love that story. I was there when you told it, and it's a great story, and it helped me reframe a little bit myself, right? Like I look at, for my daughter, for my daughters, right? I want to be like there for them, right? I want to be capable for them. But when I heard you tell that story, and I heard you mention it again just now, there was a reframe for me, a mindset shift of, I want to do things with them, right? It's not just providing
Yeah,
an example for what I'm capable of and therefore what they're capable of. Well, what are the things that we can do together physically? Like she can't ruck, but I can ruck and she can come walk with me, right? Like she
yeah.
might be able to hike. She's 5, right? She can't hike Kilimanjaro. I don't even think I could hike Kilimanjaro right now, but we can still go find a nice little hike to do together that is something she can accomplish, and I can add some weight and do some extra things for myself. But even just slowing down and just being out and being active together, even
Yeah.
if my effort isn't whatever, it's a wonderful thing to be a dad and to do things with your kid, do things with your kids, not just do things for your kids.
Yeah, yeah, and then the conversations that come from that, because I think that's where we're lacking in a society today. Is, you see a lot of people, I've seen dads and daughters walking, down the road, and both of them are on their phones or tablets or whatever it is. And I get there's a time and a place for that. I'm not gonna, sit there and say never give your kid tablets and phones kind of thing. But I also think we need to find more opportunities to get out in nature with our kids, and have, conversations with them. Just start talking. You won't believe what they'll open up about just around like a little 5 mile hike. I have just around the neighborhood here on a trail. Me and my daughter will go there sometimes and grab some lunch, go hike around, eat, talk, and the things that we're able to share and talk about, I think has further connected us. So I feel like it's a good opportunity to get to know your kids on another level at the same time.
Yeah, it's one of the things I love about Team RWB as an organization is it's like community through fitness, right? It's not just fitness. It's not just being in shape. It's just a through line. Everybody that I've talked to has mentioned this. When you're working out together, being active together, whether it's with your kids or whether it's with your local community or the veteran community, that the physical activity, the blood flow, the endorphins, all those things open up the opportunity for conversation and open up the opportunity for relationship and to be in community with the people that you're moving with.
Yeah, yeah. I think one of the biggest things that happens to a lot of veterans, I know it happened to me when I got out, was I kind of lost that sense of community. And when you don't have people you can turn to and have tough conversations with, or just be open about certain situations with, it makes it really difficult. And when I live in a pretty robust area for veterans and military people, so for me to lose a community, and I'm surrounded by it in a lot of ways, I can only think about what somebody who grew up in a nowhere kind of town in Nebraska or Iowa, they get out of the military after 12 years or whatever it's going to be, go back to that town, and there's nobody that can possibly relate to what they just went through. So finding that community was also a big part of my shift, and finding the Spartan community, the obstacle course racing community. That's a tight knit community, and then ultimately getting into this community, the ultra running community, where it's people are on a different level when you talk about mind and their control over it and just different things. And so finding this sense of community, and everybody supporting each other, everybody's trying to get to the same goal. Everybody wants to finish that 100 miles. So you'll be at mile 80, and person passing by you on your left is, saying, Great race, keep it up. Is there anything I can do to help? Do you want me to tell the aid station you need more ramen or something like that?"
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a very supportive community, and yeah, I think just your mention there of community and things like that just really, it really hit home, because I think that was the other piece that was missing for me when I got out.
So how did you get into ultra running? What is ultra running? And then let's get into RWB and this particular relay. But let's start with ultra running, you getting into it, and what is it exactly?
Yeah, so the definition of ultra running is anything over the marathon distance of 26.2. The gateway drug to ultra running is normally a 50K, which is 31 miles roughly. Um, and so I remember for my entire life, I will tell you this, I never dreamt of doing an ultra marathon. I never wanted anything to do with it. Even when I got into Spartan and they started releasing Spartan ultras, I had some friends go start doing them, and I was like, "No, no, I'm drawing the line at Spartan at a half marathon. Like, I'm not doing anything more than that." And then COVID happened, and I remember everything shut down, gym shut down. I was a decent runner. Like I could run 5 miles, 10 miles, and do it at a pretty good pace. But doing anything longer distance just didn't interest me. And I remember as the weeks kind of kept going by and gyms weren't opening and stuff, my desire to stay in the house grew less and less. So I just started going out and going on runs more and more. And before you knew it, I started looking at my Strava, and I was like, man, I'm putting in, 80, 90-mile weeks right now. What's a way to test this? And so Memorial Day weekend of 2020, I remember I did a Saturday, I did a 50, or Saturday I did 1 mile. I tried to do a 1 mile time trial where I did like a 4:58 mile. It was my first time running a sub 5 minute mile. And then Sunday I went out and ran a 50K just for myself around the neighborhood. Just went out and, wanted to log it, ended up doing like a little over 4 hours. And then on Monday I did Memorial Day Murph, and it was just a way to challenge myself during a time where there wasn't many challenges out there, obviously. And so I posted that 50K time, and a lot of my ultra running friends that were on Instagram were like, "Hey, that's a pretty decent time, man. Like that's not anything to be, you know looking at in a weird way. That's
Yeah, yeah.
yeah."
Yeah.
Um, and so it was later that year in October, I think it was. They have a local race series that put on a 13-hour race. So it was the first race that had opened up in a while. It was out there. I was like, all right, pull the trigger. I'm going for it. Like I'm just gonna run this 13-hour race and see what happens. I showed up. I, I knew I knew I was not set up for success when I saw everybody had tents, aid stations. I came with like 10 gummy gels, like, and that was it. And I was like, oh God, this is gonna be a long night. And so we started the race, and then by the end of it, I ended up finishing second overall in that race. I did like almost 70 miles in the 13 hours, and I kind of got hooked at that point. I said, you know what? Let's see how further we can go, faster we can go, anything like that. And so the next race I signed up for was a 24-hour race, again a local trail up here where you just do, 4 mile loops over and over and over again for 24 hours. And I finished second in that one too. I got over 100 miles in the 24 hours. And from there, it was just like, all right, I love this. Like, I don't know why. I think it's just a combination of different things. It's the sense of accomplishment you get after them is like nothing else because, 100 miles is not it's different. That's just the best way to put it. And then everything you overcome mentally to get to the finish line, I think is the biggest piece that people don't really give a lot of credit. Their bodies, everybody's kind of more impressed by like, oh, your body, you can run, what's that do to your knees? What a lot of people don't understand is the kind of stress you put on your mind, especially when you get deeper into the nights and your mind's calling on you to quit. Like what are you doing? And your ability to compartmentalize pain, to compartmentalize those feelings of wanting to quit, to move off it, live in that one single moment, put one foot in front of the other, all the different things that you're telling yourself to get through it. So I think that's part of the reason why I just fell in love with ultra running. And then there's if you talk in this community, there's nothing too big. Like, and that's another thing is like there's no real limit on it right now. It's a couple years ago I ran 150 miles in 48 hours on a treadmill just to raise money for a nonprofit and see what it would feel like. And I mean, that's what I love about it is like you can just come up with a crazy idea, go out and do it, and nobody in the community is gonna question you on it or do anything. They're more or less gonna support you through it. So yeah, I that's just how I got into it, and then I'll never see myself getting out of it.
Yeah. So you oh, hold on a second.
Oh,
It said it stopped. Hold on a second. Are you still
oh,
does it still say recording for you?
it shows the record button.
Interesting. Hold on. I just got a notification that it stopped recording because you had an incoming call, but it looks like it's still
Huh.
recording.
Yeah, I see it.
All right. We'll keep going. Looks like we're good. Yeah, it still says you're recording. Oh, your percentage is a little low, but yeah, we'll just keep going. You mentioned some of the mental frameworks there a little bit as you were describing it, but what are the mental frameworks that you use when you get into those deep dark night moments, and maybe they occur, you mentioned, deep into the night, but I'm sure that they just randomly pop up, right? Like as you're going through these
Yeah.
kind of events. What are the mental frameworks that you use practically to push through in those moments?
Yeah, so one thing that's interesting about me, I guess, as a runner, as a racer for 100 miles and stuff, is I don't normally wear any headphones or anything like that. I like to go just in silence for the race. So that eliminates one way, I guess, of trying to like put everything off and just listen to music or something. So I almost force myself to sit with it in a way, and good or bad, I don't know. But I've been able to work through some things in my own life just in those hours, just being out there. Normally, especially in those low moments, when you're feeling rough, it's like life. I guess the mental model I use is this is nothing different than what you have overcome previously in life, and what's to come in life is you're gonna have ups and downs. You're gonna have days that are feel like they're amazing and great and you can defeat the whole world, and then 2 days later it could drop you to your knees and feel like you are never going to be the same and you'll never make it out alive kind of thing. I think that really resonates with the ultra running community because I've been in mile 20 and had a low moment where it's like, how am I supposed to go 80 more miles like this? And then at mile 40, I feel like I'm running, 7 minute miles and halfway through a 100-mile race. So, I mean, it's just, you have to give it time and you have to just really understand the moment you're in. Is this I'm hurt, like I'm hurting, like I can't overcome it, or I'm hurting, I just need to, for lack of a better term, suck it up and drive on. Like I need to get out of this little pity party I'm in and finish this race. So I feel like a lot of times it's assessing your body and you as a person saying, okay, this isn't, if I keep going, I'm not going to do, permanent damage to my body, and then you really coming through what you're feeling in that moment. And a lot of times it's you start looking at the gravity of what you're trying to complete versus what you have remaining. And I feel like this is a problem with most people with like New Year's goals. Like we just came through January and a lot of people have already quit. And the reasoning behind that, for from what I can see, and having chats with people, is they don't see the finish line fast enough. It's like we have to we live in this community in the society today where fast isn't fast enough. You can't get them something faster. Amazon can drop it on your porch, within 2 hours, but that's still, like, can we work on that hour one, get an hour quicker kind of thing. So, with the ultra running specifically, if you start saying at mile like 2, oh my gosh, I got 98 miles left, you're gonna psych yourself out. So I just try to put it into buckets. Like, okay, there's 18 aid stations. I'm at aid station 1. Like we only got 17 more to go. It's just however your mind processes information most easily. But the life lesson that I learned from that is when I say I'm gonna go do something that's a big goal, like I can't expect to think of it one day, do none of the work, and then achieve it, a week later. You're going to have to work at it day after day, week after week, month after month. And when people start thinking about their goals in that mindset where it's, I want to lose 50 pounds by the end of the year, and they've only lost one at the first 5 weeks into the year, and they look and they got 40, 47 weeks left in the year, they're going to go, well, that's worthless, and quit. So I guess that's the other big thing that I try to use is just to make it manageable, to break the work into manageable pieces so that it doesn't become something that's unwieldy and just feels like it's impossible.
Yeah, it's understanding your own body and understanding your own mind and how it works and how you work, and then working the process that works for you. I think about it, obviously not comparing these things, but playing high school football and then going into the military. Like when you're lifting weights in high school or college football, you're trying to get 1 rep maxes. You're trying to do the whatever competition that the strength coach puts in front of you, right? And so you have those goals that are shorter in distance because you're only playing for 4 years, or you're thinking about that 1 year off season or in season or whatever. And then when you get out of the military or get into middle age, you're like, well, what are my actual goals here? Like, what am I doing? I don't have
Yeah.
the reference points that I need to understand what being physically fit for the things that I'm trying to do are. Right? What are those reference points? And yeah, it's funny. I go out to the garage and lift and do the row machine and all those things. And I'm always trying to find ways to game my own brain to get through
Yeah.
whatever meters I'm trying to do on the row machine. And for a long time, I fought it. For a long time, I was like, well, no, if you think about it that way, like, it's wrong. You're not going to get everything out of the workout. I'm like, no, fuck that. I'm trying to get this workout and whatever works for me to hit the meters that I need to hit. Like, I'm going to think about it in whatever chunks I need to think about it to get to the next chunk.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the mental game is key. I talked about this previously with a friend of mine in ultras too. It's the same thing as almost like selection in certain schools where, like Hell Week for SEALs, like that's, everybody kind of knows that from movies and stuff now. But, I live in Virginia Beach where we got a lot of SEAL team instructors and stuff and guys that were on the teams. And they say during that week, it's not the times where you're in the shit and you're like, you're training, people are screaming at you, you're getting water hoses blasted at you. It's not those are the times your people are quitting. It's the times where they actually give you a minute to think. That's when you're like, oh God, I got all the rest. This is only Tuesday. I got a whole rest of this week left. Like that's when your mind starts playing games, and that's when they start ringing the bell. Same is true for ultra marathons. The minute you give yourself, or at least for me, if I give myself a little too much time at an aid station, things start getting feel real comfortable. That's when your mind's like, hey, this feels really good. Let's go ahead and like keep at this good feeling that we got going.
Yeah, you don't need motivation. You need momentum. You need to keep build
Yeah,
momentum, sustain momentum, and keep moving.
yeah.
All right, so I want to jump into the Old Glory Ultra Relay here. How'd you get involved with Team RWB as an organization? What was the selection process like for this relay, and the beginning stages of this process for you?
Yeah, so Margaret actually reached out to me via email, and we were talking about doing some other collaboration type things with Team RWB, just to get the name out there and start talking through some other things. And I remember near the end of that first call with Margaret, she was like, "Hey, oh by the way, we also have this Old Glory Ultra Relay thing." And she was like, "You want me to send you some more information on it?" I was like, "Yeah, please. I just got to see what this is all about." And I looked at it, and this was kind of like so the Team RWB has a BFG, a big fucking goal, basically every year that people sign themselves up for, which I'm a firm believer in. Sign yourself up for something hard. That's your definition of hard. It could be a 5K if that's what's hard for you, but something that's hard for you at least one time a year. It's something I've done for the past, 6, 7 years now, and I highly recommend. It's something that keeps your mind and your everything focused towards something that's big, that's got a chance of not going well, and if it does, you'll feel the biggest success of your life kind of stuff. But yeah, so I was looking for one for this year, and I was originally going to try to flip a 220-pound tire for 24 hours and see how far I could get with that. And and then when Margaret told me about this, I was like, oh, this sounds like more what I want to do. And so I applied, and then JJ and the team called me probably a week or two later and, welcomed me to the team if I, accepted the invite. And then kind of started going through the logistics of it all. And so I kind of knew early on that I would have a good chance of being on the team. But it was definitely something that I was thrilled to hear in person when I finally got the news. And then yeah, just started logging more and more miles and training for it from there. And then looking forward to seeing the team again here in a couple weeks to get together. We got an opportunity to meet once before. I think it's a good, solid team of folks, and looking forward to it.
Yeah, so something that JJ says all the time is that, Team RWB wasn't trying to pick the 12 best runners. They were trying to pick the 12 best teammates. And you just mentioned,
Yeah.
yourself feeling like you had a good shot at making this team and making the cut to be a part of the organization, and the event. What, from your perspective, what does that mean when you hear JJ say, we're trying to pick the 12 best teammates, not the 12 best runners? How did you approach that going into meeting the team? And then now that you've been training and talking to everybody, how do you feel as a runner about the makeup of the team, about the approach of this event, and how we're attacking the goal?
Yeah, I think the makeup of the team is it's a lot of experience. It's just when you look across the board at how many ultra marathons, just ultra events, period, people have finished and finished well at, not just gone out there and finished last and then 72 hours for a 24-hour race. It's people that are podium in races and things like that. And so I understand they were looking for the best teammates, but they also found a lot of solid athletes, which is amazing to say the least. And then finding the best teammates, I feel like that's for an event like this, that's something that you got to have. It's one thing to put together a dream team, and then the dream team just be full of prima donnas and folks that are focused on them and focused on other things besides the mission at hand, and I think the other thing that makes this team so formidable is like we truly hold each person accountable. We constantly reaching out. They care about making sure that the next person behind them is taken care of and the person in front of them is taken care of. So it's I if I was going to put together a team for something like this, I don't think I could have put it together any better than what JJ and them did, but because just the veteran community as a whole, I feel like you put a challenge like this in front of them, and they're going to find a way to accomplish the mission. I like that. I like that if something breaks down, if a RV breaks down, if somebody gets an injury out there, there's not going to be panic and there's not going to be this sense of like, oh, dread and oh, woe is me. It's going to be like, okay, well, how do we figure this out and how do we continue on with our goal of running this flag 3,000 miles across the country? So and after meeting everybody, and getting a chance to kind of get to know everybody on a deeper level, I can honestly say like each one of them are more concerned about, making sure everybody else is good besides themselves. It's a think for yourself last kind of thing. So that's why I'm glad we also have crew chiefs because with a lot of people with that mindset, it's a recipe for the disaster the opposite way, where everybody's too caring and too giving and doesn't take care of themselves. Um, yeah, and then with the process of everything, the logistics obviously was the one of the hardest things I was trying to mentally get through when they first announced the race. Is okay, how do we get 12 people, all the other folks that are, supporting across the country, running with different RVs, all food, just all these questions originally. And then as we've kind of moved through this process, JJ and the team have been really doing a good job of checking those off the list and saying, all right, we have somebody who's providing food now. We have somebody who's providing supplements. We have the route all done pretty much, and they've already done a recon of it on foot. So those are all nice things to kind of have in the back of your head going into this. Is the team's done a really good job. The support team has of making sure that everything's set up for success. Your job is just to run.
Yeah. You mentioned the crew chief. So what's the makeup of the team, the large team of 12 runners, and then there's three teams within. So from your vantage point and your perspective, what's the makeup of the team and what is the approach to get all 12 of you, or not the support side. The support side we've covered with the previous few episodes, but from the running standpoint, what's the makeup of the
Yeah.
team and the teams within, and how are you guys getting across the country?
Yeah, so each team has a crew chief. In some cases, the crew chief is also a runner. And then we each have a team of four runners. So my team, for instance, we have a crew chief who's just a crew chief. I'm in team white, and then we have four runners, and we have three males and a female. And so with our team, for instance, and I think a lot of teams are taking the same approach, is you have an 8 hour block during a 24 hour, cycle in the day for your team to run as many miles as you possibly can. The goal is for each runner to be able to run 4 hours total, or 2 hours total, for between each one of the four. So it gets us to that eight, and then do it at a pace right around 7 minutes, 30 seconds per mile. So the strategies, there's been a lot of strategy. About the way people feel, how we should approach it, whether it be 30-second shifts here, 30-second shift there, or 30 minutes, sorry, shift here and there to get out as fast as you can, whether it be one person do their full 2 hour shift at one time. We've just been kind of talking through that, a lot of strategies. Fortunately, we get a chance to kind of do a run through um, out in Arkansas here coming up in a couple weeks to kind of really feel what it's going to be like in a van for 8 hours, running with the flag, trying to figure out whose legs feel good, whose legs feel bad, just all the different things that we're going to have to go through while we're out there actually completing it. Just thinking when we're out west, running in the mountains versus, you hit the, Texas area and stuff like that, and you're running pretty flat. So what's the strategy is going to be there when we're going up and down mountains, and do people have mountain legs versus, I live in Virginia Beach, Mount Trashmore is the biggest thing we have in this area. So a lot of different things, a lot of different strategies being thought through at this moment about how we can get there injury free as fast as possible. and really make this effort worth it for everybody. So I think still more to come on how we're going to do it, and it's going to change. Any plan is best laid until the first bullet flies, and then it's like, oh, okay, everything's changed. So so yeah, that's kind of where we're just taking it right now. Go in with a plan, a loosely knit plan that we know we can diverge from if needed, and just go from there. But ultimately, the crew chiefs, I think, have a big job in making sure that everybody's taken care of, everybody's doing their mileage the way they should, they're feeling good, just things like that.
What are the biggest challenges that you foresee for you personally as a member of the team at large and of Team White? And then what do you foresee as the biggest challenge for the team as a whole?
Yeah, for me, it's honestly like I feel comfortable at running the 7:30 pace for a couple days in a row. I think the biggest thing is the known unknown is what your legs are going to be feeling that day 8, 9 kind of thing. And how that's going to fit in across the board to the whole team. Hopefully nobody's feeling bad on the same day kind of thing. Hopefully everybody's got their own individual bad day. Um, but uh, but yeah, I think that's the thing for me that goes through my mind is how I'm feeling deep into the run when we're, in day 9, 10 kind of time frame. And then as the team as a whole, it's I think the biggest concern I have is what does it start looking like when we have runners, potentially drop from injuries. We have runners that potentially can't start making mileage because they're have a lingering something going on, things like that. Like how does the game plan continuously change to adapt to different things that are gonna are likely to happen when you're out there on course. So I think that's the big thing for me is injuries and then just you get to a point where, like I said, day 9, if all of us are having a bad day on the same day, what's that look like?
Yeah, that's going to be the big question. That's going to be the big question. So going back out to like the kind of 30,000 foot view here from the AWACS, so to speak, right? This nation is facing a health crisis, and JJ has said, and Sully has said, everybody in the organization has said that veterans are going to lead our nation out of the health and wellness crisis that we're experiencing right now. So, what does it mean to you to be a part of this organization and this event, not just for the personal challenge that you're going to accomplish, and not just the team challenge that you're going to contribute to accomplishing, but being a part of this movement, being a part of this event, running from the Midway to the National Mall in Washington D.C. What does it feel like? How do you look at your small slice of this event and this movement?
Yeah, you know, I- the past couple years when I've done an event, I've tried to tie it to an organization, a veteran organization that I believe in and that does good things for the veteran community. And the biggest reason I do that now is because I don't, I'm a big believer in if you've come from somewhere and you've gotten through, you've achieved some level of success with coming from one aspect of your life into a new aspect of your life, and you can turn around and give back. You should, like, that's your responsibility, is to give that knowledge back and mentor and be there for somebody to help them get to where you're at now. And so for me, 2017, what, 8 years ago, I was in the worst shape physically and mentally in my life, and I couldn't run on a treadmill 1 mile and sub 13. I was dying after 1 mile on a treadmill, and to think about that person, and then to think about where I'm at now, and to think that that change could happen for anybody and any veteran that's out there listening, is it, and especially with the suicide rates and stuff that we have in the veteran community and everything that's you hear that's bad about it. I think Team RWB and other organizations like Team RWB have given people the ability to look and say, I can do more with my life, and I don't have to be stuck in this bad spot. So for me, I feel like I'm hopefully with the rest of the team turning around and putting our hands out and saying, hey, look, we got to this point in our lives after suffering, after dealing with PTSD, after dealing with all the different things I've dealt with, alcoholism, everything else, and I've been able to turn around and make turn my life into this. Let's help others, get to that point too. And I feel like that's what I'm hopefully doing on this team, and being able to, portray that message to other veterans is, yeah, it was difficult, it was tough, it was hard. I had my moments where I didn't think I wanted to continue on with life, but use me as an example. This it gets better, and you get to a point where you look back and you just realize the growth that occurred over that time. And so, yeah, I think that's the biggest piece for me, is just wanting to be a part of something bigger than myself, and something that is can turn around and help others, get out of the funk that I was once in.
Yeah, we need to rewrite the narrative, right? Like
Yeah.
a we've unfortunately internalized a belief that culture and society has put onto us, which is that we're victims of the system, that we're victims of the forever wars, that we're victims of all these terrible things that we experienced collectively and individually. And it's not to say that some of the aspects of that aren't true, but what isn't true is that we don't have a responsibility for ourselves and for our community, right? And when you integrate the individual and the collective like this, we can move forward together, right? By providing examples, whether they be extreme examples or whether they just be those small momentum making, forward moving, one step at a time examples. And it's on us, right? It's not on anybody
Mm.
else to fix us. It's not on anybody else to provide for us. It's on ourselves to provide for ourselves and for each other.
Yeah, it's the message of, it's not, don't throw us a pity party. We're fully capable, and it's the empowering part. Like, empower us to use the talents that we have to achieve, great things. And that's what this opportunity gave me, is, an opportunity to, and it empowers me to go use a talent that I have in running to spread a much bigger message than, hey, just go run, or, get in shape. This is a much bigger message than that. It is, we can achieve anything that we put our minds to, and purpose, and we find that purpose, and then you empower us, and it's a community of people that get the job done.
That's it. That's it. All right. I want to be respectful of your time. Before I ask the open ended question at the end of each episode, Jason, where can folks find you? Where can folks donate? I know that, excuse me, folks can donate to the cause at large, but can also to donate to individual runners. Where do you want to link out? Where can we share? Where can folks find ways to
Yeah.
support you and the team?
Yeah, so my Instagram is just jfloydwood, JFLOYDWOOD at gmail.com. Or, but that's my email, but you can find me there too. But my Instagram is jfloydwood. And then from there, in my bio, I have a link to the Old Glory Ultra Relay site, that you can get more information on the run, what it entails, where we're running from, where we're running to, and then there's the donation page that Carrie mentioned, and that you can go in and donate. You can donate to the entire team, or you can donate to an individual runner. So all that stuff is in the link in my link tree in my bio.
Awesome. We'll get that shared out. Jason, to end each episode of the podcast, I ask an open ended question. What's on your heart and your mind for our community right now? Could be a piece of advice, something you want to get off your chest, or something you want to reiterate that we've talked about today. But Jason, what's on your heart? What's on your mind?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me, I come from a community in that's very military intense. I guess we have Navy, Air Force, Army all around us. I served in the military, obviously in the United States Army for 7 years myself, and there hasn't been a year that's gone by where I haven't lost at least one friend or former soldier to suicide. And um, it is a thing that I thought about myself. At one point, I'd had a plan and I was ready to go through with it, and I didn't. I was very fortunate that I, thought about, my daughter growing up without a father. I thought about her getting married without me there. I thought about a lot of different things, and it caused me to pause and go find help. And my biggest thing to everybody out there is don't wait, reach out. Like don't wait for something catastrophic to happen to you before you hit rock bottom and feel like it's a time to reach out then. Reach out now, find the help you need now, like start talking to people. Being open and honest about where I'm at and where I've been at in my life has made the biggest difference for me, because now I'm empowered by that. Going back to that empowering word, I'm empowered to know that I've put my life story out there. I've put, um, I've talked about the struggles that I've been through, and if that can help change just one person's life, I, I've lived a good life. And so, if you're struggling with things in life, reach out and talk to somebody about it. Don't wait. And then if you're a friend out there that's got friends that have served, or just being a friend, just reach out to them and see how their day's going. Don't wait for them to reach out to you either. So just communication's key, and I believe in reaching out to your buddies, your loved ones, and letting them know you love them, and that you think the best of them, that you're here for them. So yeah.
It's a good word. Couldn't agree more. Listen to that. Listen to your gut. Listen to that little tingling feeling that if somebody's on your mind, reach out, say, hey, check in. You can never do that too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jason, appreciate you. Appreciate your time. Appreciate your effort here for this event. Very excited to be on the road with you and to help tell this story as it unfolds. And yeah, we'll see you soon.
All right. Thanks. Good. Sounds good, Carrie. Thanks.
Thanks.